So good to be back. So good to be back. So good to be back. Man, I got some things to share with y'all. It's been a little bit since I've been here, probably about a little over a year. Right after I was here last time, I had a pretty bad health scare. Look at first look, Pastor Dennis at me, saw me, he's like, "You're little, you're smaller than you used to be." I was having some back issues. I'm a tattoo artist, right? So I'm sitting like this all day. My back gets sore. I went to a chiropractor. Chiropractor took my blood pressure as part of the intake. And they're like, blood pressure's a little high. You should probably get this checked out. And I was sitting there kind of disgusted with myself. I was almost 400 pounds. I couldn't walk up the stairs without breathing pretty heavy and gasping for air. I couldn't stand up here without a podium to lean on. And I said, you know, this is ridiculous. I need to get my health in order. So I went to my primary care doctor for a physical before I started working out. And they checked my blood pressure, and the nurse looked at me kind of scared. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I feel fine, but now I'm a little worried." She's like, "Well, just hang out here, lay down. I'm going to get the doctor. We'll be back in a minute." The doctor comes back in, checks my blood pressure, and he asks the same question. I said, "I think I'm fine, but now I'm really getting a little concerned here." So, "Well, your blood pressure is 210 over 100. And he said, "Chris, usually when we see people, the blood pressure is 210. They're either having a stroke or they're
We're old school here.
So they thought I was about to have a stroke. 2 minutes later, 4 very large firefighters came in with a stretcher, slammed an IV in my arm, and rushed me up to the Plainfield Edwards ER. And my doctor came in. I can't say exactly what he said to me because we're in church, but basically he said, "You need to either get busy living or get busy dying, because the way you're going right now, you're in bad shape." And I started that journey right then that day. And it was just basically changing the way I eat and started moving again. And I've lost almost 100 pounds so far. But a couple of really crazy things with that. The first was that I have this social media presence, and we're always putting information out on the Inc. 180 social media stuff. And I wasn't going to put all this out there because, first of all, I was a little bit embarrassed that I was almost 400 pounds and in horrible shape. And then a couple of my friends from church are like, "No, you should put it out there because it's going to encourage people." And it's crazy. It's like another door of ministry opened up. I got all these people coming to church, and I'm meeting people in the gym, and they're like, "Oh, you're the Inc. 180 guy, and where's your church at?" And we got all these people from my gym going to my church now, so it's kind of cool. But the message that I wanted to share with that isn't that I'm doing, yeah, it's great, I'm doing better, and I'm physically feeling great, best I have in years. The thing that's important, and I want you to take this away from me, I was so focused on doing God's work that I was not focusing on my own health, my own life, and what God was trying to do in my life. Right? So if you don't take anything away from today, take that away. It's important to do God's work. Nobody will tell you to go serve God more than I will, but you got to take care of yourself too. I got a family. My wife and I have been married 25 years coming up this year. Beautiful kids. I'm 47 and I got a whole lot of life left to do and a whole lot of ministry left to do. You can't do that if you're not taking care of yourself. All right, so how many of you were here one of the other times that I spoke? Okay, so quite a few. For the others who weren't, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of what I do day to day. I'm a tattoo artist. I know that's not hard to see, right? I have 84 tattoos for those of you who are wondering. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, middle of gangland, was not involved in gangs, mostly because I had an Irish Catholic mom who was way more fierce than the gangs were. But all my friends were involved in gang activity. And I lost 17 of those friends growing up. The reason I moved to Chicago 11 years ago with my family was because my friend Dante was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting the day after he got released from jail after 2.5 years. That day, the day that he died, he planted an amazing seed in my heart that didn't take root for years. But basically, he told us when he was locked up, he found Christ. He found Jesus. He got baptized. He got his GED. He wanted to change. He was done with the gang life. He wanted to move away, live with his aunt, go to school, and start a life. And that night at 11:47 p.m., he was shot and killed right in front of me. So I moved my family to the area. We live in Oswego. We moved here because my wife is from here originally. She's got a lot of family in the area, Plainfield, Oswego, Naperville. And that night when Dante was killed, we sat in our apartment and we were talking like, we want a place that has the same kind of cultural diversity as Los Angeles and music and art. So we're like, let's move to Chicago. They have all that and no gang problems at all. Right? Yeah. God has a sense of humor. Right? So we moved out here 11 years ago. 8 years ago, I was shattered. I was a mess. I was suicidal. I needed Christ bad. And I didn't even know that's what I needed. I was in a marriage counseling office with my wife, and a Christian counselor prayed for me. My whole life was radically transformed because a 72-year-old Christian marriage counselor prayed for me and my wife. The Holy Spirit came into my life that day. I was in Haiti on top of a mountain 6 months later helping to build a school. I was doing homeless outreach in Joliet. I was doing work with Mutual Ground in Aurora. It's a women's shelter for those that suffer from domestic violence. I was trying to serve as much as I could. I was doing really cool things and really enjoyed it. Met some amazing people. But I started talking to God. I was like, God, I have 17 friends that are gone. And I'm still here. What's that purpose? Why am I here? So I started praying about it. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything you want. The first 39 years of my life, I was arrogant and foolish and ran from you every opportunity I could. But now I want to serve you for whatever time I got left. You say, Chris, no problem, I got you. Go do what you love to do more than anything and do it for free. It's like, well, I love tattooing, but there's a lot of Christians that don't really like tattoos. So surely that couldn't be doing God's work. And over some more prayer and time, I saw little movie clips, like highlights or lowlights of my life actually. Dante's death, funerals, friends going to prison, stuff like that. And it clicked. I was going to start removing and covering gang tattoos for free for people. Started doing that in the basement of my house. Probably not the brightest idea I've ever had in my life. I'm bringing gang members into my home, in my basement studio. I don't know these folks, and I don't know if they're current or former or whatever. And my kids are upstairs doing homework, and my wife's watching TV, and I'm doing this in the basement, but humble beginnings, right? And God blessed it. We have our shop in Oswego now, and we also have a mobile unit, a 40-foot RV that we take up into the city every Monday. We provide our services free of charge. We're coming up on the 7th anniversary of the ministry in October. We've been blessed to be able to help 4,400 people. But in addition to the gang side of things, which I'm very passionate about, I love doing street ministry, and I'm going to tell you a couple stories about that here in a few. We also do other things. Like Pastor said, I work with the FBI, Homeland Security, U.S. attorneys to help the fight against sex trafficking. Trafficking survivors are often branded by their traffickers with barcodes, their name, pimps' names, gang symbols, because gangs are trafficking now. So I got heavily involved in that fight because it was something I knew nothing about. I go all over the country doing that work. I was just in Las Vegas removing tattoos for the FBI. I'm getting ready to go back to Texas and do some more of that. So we're all over the place. Also, this how you can see my health issue is very important to deal with because I'm always on the move somewhere. My family is very involved in the ministry, very helpful. My wife is the brain behind the operation. In addition to the gangs and sex trafficking, we also remove and cover tattoos for survivors of domestic violence, like my mom. I grew up in a house where that was very prevalent. And work with great organizations like Mutual Ground, different ones. There's survivors of that have maybe their ex's name tattooed on them, or just a tattoo from that time period that reminds them of it. So we get rid of those for them for free. And then we also do free scar cover-ups for people that dealt with self-harm or cutting. It's another issue I knew nothing about before we started doing this ministry work. The cool part about the ministry isn't that we just remove or cover these tattoos or cover the scars. It's the interaction that we get to have with people, to hear what God's doing in their lives. Like a lot of people look at me, a lot of my friends are tattoo artists around the country. A couple people who were good friends are now really against what I do because I do it for free. And they see it as I'm taking money off of their table, so I have to put up with a lot of flack from people in the tattoo artist community. But I don't even care. I mean, I'm doing this for a real reason, right? It's what God told me to do, so I don't care about that. But I get a front row seat every day to sit and watch God work inside people. I get to hear their heart, hear where they were, I get to hear where they're at and where they want to be. I want to share a story that I've shared before. It's an amazing conclusion, a huge praise. 5 years ago, I was doing street ministry up in Englewood, 79th and Stewart. I was up there with 4 other friends. We're from different ministries. We were just walking through the neighborhood praying, talking to people. We came across this young man named Darnell, sitting on a bus bench. He looked like he hadn't eaten in a while. He looked just worn out, tired. We didn't know if he was on drugs or what. He was just kind of out of it. We sat down, we talked to him. And we're like, are you hungry? He was like, yeah, I haven't eaten since like a day and a half ago. I'm like, well, you want to go to lunch? We'll buy you lunch. He's like, yeah, sure. He's looking at us kind of like, why do you guys care? You know? So we took him to White Castle. We've apologized since. You know, when you're hungry, you're hungry, right? So we went to White Castle. We sat down with him for about an hour and a half, and we just talked with him and listened. And asked him to kind of tell us what's going on in his life. His parents were both killed. His mom died of a heroin overdose. His dad was killed in a shooting. He was homeless. He was selling drugs. And I looked at him and I said, what do you want for your life? And he had no answer. He's like, I don't know. It's like, but what, you gotta have a dream. Like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I always wanted to finish high school. Like I promised my mom I would have finished high school. I was like, well, do you want to take your GED? He goes, well, yeah. I said, well, my friend Steve here helps people prepare to take the GED. I'm pretty sure Steve can help you out with that. Steve, you good? Yep. I don't know, you want to do that? Yep. They started working together. He took his GED and passed it the first time. All right? He was in a temporary housing situation, right? So definitely better than the situation he was in. And he started taking community college classes, doing really well with it. I removed a couple tattoos he had. He was having some vision problems, so another ministry that we worked with helped him get his glasses and get his eyes taken care of, his vision, his medical. He hadn't seen a doctor in years. All these different groups came around this kid, surrounded him with some love, and sewed into this kid. He finished his community college, got his AA degree, went down to NIU, started studying molecular biology. He graduated this last spring. I wanted him to come here this morning, but he's in New York for a job interview. This is a young man of several. I mean, we've had so many people that we've talked to just like this, different groups, and we always talk back and forth. And it's about loving people and being consistent. You know, I see a lot of people who start things out with good intentions, like I want to go and help this person, and they start helping them, and then things kind of fade away. It's about consistency. It's one of the greatest gifts God has blessed me with is following up, staying on top of things, and following up with people. Because Darnell is a kid that 99.99% of society wanted to forget all about. He could fade off into the sunset. How many times when we watch the news, every night when we watch the news, they talk about right between the news, or right between the weather report and the Cubs score, they talk about how many kids got shot in the city, right? It's like an afterthought. What if we just sow some love into those kids, into those communities, and that's what we're trying to do with Ink 180. It's not just about removing tattoos. So a huge praise report and big thanks to God for everything He's doing in Darnell's life. I had a young woman recently who was trafficked, and I know we have little ears in here, so I'll keep it high level. But she was trafficked by a family member for 16 years. She thought nobody cared about her. She was in an inpatient facility because she was cutting. She was suicidal. She was hurting so badly. She didn't believe anybody could be there for her, help her. We have a safe house that we work with in Michigan that has her set up. She's back in school getting caught up. That's the beautiful thing about the ministry is like, a lot of people say, well, it's cool that you're removing those painful reminders of their past. She had a tattoo of her pimp's name on her chest. We got rid of that. But to hear about what's going on after, the tattoos, whatever, I can teach anybody to remove a tattoo. It's not really that hard, okay? But to sow into people's lives and connect the dots and connect them with other ministries, that's where Lisa is so powerful in our ministry. She'll sit with me as I'm working with somebody and listen. And she'll take notes. You know, they need this, they need that, they're looking for this. We'll hook them up with those other organizations, and that's the best part of what we get to do, to follow up. It's like, we say we have 3 kids, but we got like 4,403 kids, because we're always getting phone calls and messages from folks, and we love it. We're blessed to be able to do it. Another thing that's a huge possibility, we're praying and asking God for His guidance on this one, so if you can join in on that with us, we appreciate it. I do a lot of work out in Las Vegas. I don't think it's any secret to anybody that city got its nickname for a reason, Sin City, right? We're working with a lot of organizations out there that fight human trafficking. And I've been working with a church out there called Central Church. It's a pretty big church. And, one of my friends was a former pastor at the Yellow Box up here in Naperville, and he moved out there to head that up. And they want us to open a second Inc. 180 facility in Las Vegas. So I'm not moving to Vegas. I'll just go out and visit and help get it up and running. But it's crazy to me because when we look back, not even 7 years ago, it'll be 7 years in October, we were doing this in our basement. And I told my wife we'd probably do like 2 or 3 of these things a month. And now we've got a facility, we've got a mobile truck that we take out, and we've got the possibility of another office opening up in Vegas. It's crazy to see how God works, and He blesses what He wants to do. If you would have told me that God would be blessing a 47-year-old tattoo artist 8 years ago, I would have laughed. Because I had none of this in my life. I ran away from God every opportunity I got. My whole life changed when I stopped and said yes. When we say yes, He says yes. He's there. He was there. I look back to all those times in my first 39 years of stupidity and arrogance where I said things like, well, if God is so great, how come Dante got killed? How come Tony got killed? The list goes on and on. Why did 2 of my brothers die from cancer very young? If God is so great. But then God cleared all those cobwebs. He showed me His greatness. He showed me that He could take and transform a disaster of a life like mine and turn me around. And He's not done. He's not done by any means. I'm able to see now, like every day. I tattooed on my arm right here. God deserves better. Because I try and give a little bit better every day, but you know what He gives me every day? A whole lot more than I deserve. That's what it's all about. That's why we come to church. It's not about just coming and singing some songs. It's praise. We praise God for the blessings He's bestowing upon all of us. And we all, everybody sitting in this room, has a ministry. I'm telling you right now, I'm a dumb tattoo artist, okay? God blessed me with an ability to create art. The way I look at it is every time I cover a tattoo for somebody or remove a tattoo, I'm giving God a thank you card for blessing me with that gift. We all have that. We all have different things. When I speak in churches, one of the things I always say, first and foremost, Inc. 180 is not Chris and Lisa's ministry, it's God's ministry. We're just the lucky 2 souls that get to run it and be the hands and feet of this ministry. Ask God for your ministry and He'll give it to you. He will give it to you and He'll show you things that you could never have imagined. Ever. And it's the biggest blessing. I was on Moody Radio a couple of weeks before Father's Day because I had had said something another time to Carl Clausen. I said, my kids, they're now 20, 16, and 13. I'm seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a little scary. They're going off into the world and doing their thing. But I'm blessed to see what God's doing in their lives. It's amazing stuff. But I told them, my kids look at me and refer to me as old dad and new dad. Like, that hurts. But it's also glorious because they see new dad, right? Old dad was not present as much as I needed to be. Old dad was consumed by how much money can I make tattooing this year and take my family on cool trips to Disney, or if I want to go buy a car, I'm just going to go buy it, or a custom motorcycle that I had bought. All this junk that never, ever made me happy. Yeah, going to Disney will make you happy for 5 days, but the minute you get in that car to drive home, you take that old life right back, right? I was miserable no matter what I had. I went out one day, and I'm not bragging about this, I'm ashamed of this. I went out one day, and I had this wild idea that I needed a motorcycle. I think I watched too much American Chopper back in the day. I was like, I need one of those. I went out one afternoon, didn't even consult my wife about it. And I wrote a $32,000 check for a motorcycle. I wrote it home, like, honey, look what I got. She was not thrilled. God blessed me in that moment, though, because 3 weeks later we found out we were having our third child, and I sold the bike. Probably saved my life, because I was really young back then, too. Probably would have killed myself on that thing. It's crazy to look at old dad versus new dad. I love to do, my focus is my ministry and my family. My son Tyler is 16, he's got a band. They played the Vans Warped Tour last weekend out in Tinley Park, 21,000 people, 16-year-old kid. I love to do that. Last night they played in this little dive bar in Crest Hill with like 30 people, and I went to that. Like, I want to be there for my daughters. My oldest daughter's a hairstylist, and she's doing some cool things with ministry where she's tied into Inc. 180, and she's doing free makeovers for trafficking survivors. Because do some research on human trafficking. One of the first things that those traffickers do is they strip away their self-esteem. And she helps build that back up. And I'm so blessed to see my kid do that at 20 years old. My 13-year-old daughter is going to take over the world. She'll probably be the first female president. But she's an amazing kid, and I see God in those kids every single day. It's a huge blessing. I love it. I want to tell you one more story. It's one of my favorite. People often ask me about my different tattoos, what they mean, what they represent. And I love to have those conversations as opposed to some of my clients having to explain theirs. But one of my favorite ones is across my knuckles I have the word disciple. And I have this t-shirt that my wife kind of shudders every time I wear it to the city. Black t-shirt with the word disciple across it, old English letters. A lot of the gangs in Chicago end in the word disciple. Gangs are disciples, black disciples, Latin disciples. My least favorite, Satan's disciples. And their enemy is Latin Kings. One of the biggest gangs in the area. I work in Aurora a lot as well. Latin Kings are a huge gang, right? I did this tattoo and I wear that shirt to start conversations. Last year, June 25th, the day before my birthday, my youngest daughter and I were walking into the Jewel grocery store on Orchard over in Oswego to pick up some stuff for a barbecue. We're walking into the grocery store, and this young Hispanic kid comes walking out, so he's walking towards us. He sees my shirt and he starts doing this, throwing up Latin King signs at me and saying some pretty horrible stuff, shouting at me. I look at my little girl and I was like, Quinn, go into the store, everything's fine, don't worry about it, just go in, I'll be there in a minute. This young man comes up to me, he's right here, he's about here. And it's like, why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. I'm like, bro, we're in Oswego, okay? We're not in gang neighborhood, we're in Oswego. Yeah. No, man, see his tattoos. I know the story. I know exactly what's going on. He's like, why are you wearing that shirt? Why do you have that tattoo on your hands? He said, because I'm a disciple of Jesus. The one that paid the ultimate price on that cross. You need to live a different life and not have to live this way. Not have to look over your shoulder. Not have to get into confrontations with people walking out of the grocery store. And he looked at me. It was the funniest thing, I swear. He looked at me. He goes, oh, he goes, you're that Ink 180 guy, huh? Yeah. I go, can I walk out to your car with you? I just want to talk to you. He's like, yeah. So everything calms down then, right? We're talking. I was like, so tell me what's going on. He's like, whoa. He's like, I live in Aurora. He's telling me all that, he's like acting all tough like he's The Rock or something. Kid's like 104 pounds. But you can hear the fear in his voice, covered by false bravado. And you know how I can figure that out? Because I lived that life for 39 years too. I started getting tattooed on my 18th birthday, not only because I like tattoos, I wanted people to leave me alone. I wanted you to walk towards me on the sidewalk, see me, and be like, crossing the street, going. Not because I was going to do something to anybody, but because I didn't want people getting close. Because my whole life, when people got close, they either died or ran away. I didn't want to get hurt. So I started building up this false sense of bad guy, right? People look at me still. I walk into church, not this one, because y'all know me. I walk into some churches, swear to God, it's the funniest thing ever. I walk in, I see a woman walking towards me with her husband. They clutch their purse a little tight. They're looking at me like, what's this guy doing? Who's the homeless dude in the church, right? But here's the amazing, cool thing about this. God gave me a crazy ability to talk to people about Jesus that would never talk to my pastor. My pastor is funny, his name's Jeff. He's the stereotypical white suburban sweater vest pastor, right? I invite him to come to Inglewood all the time. And he's like, yeah, maybe I'll go, one of these days. But he tells me, he's like, you're uniquely positioned to talk to those kids about Jesus in a way that I could never reach them. And I love it. That conversation with Jose, I prayed with him before he got in his car and left. And I gave him one of my business cards. I said, Jose, I'm going to keep praying for you. I said, I'm going to give you this card. I said, I don't know what day it is. I don't know if it's going to be tonight, tomorrow, or 3 years from now. But something's going to happen. And you're going to decide that this life is not for you. You want to change. And when that day comes, I want you to call me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to talk down at you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to preach at you. I just want to help you out. Keep this in your wallet. He came into this shop in November. It was November 11th, if I remember right before my daughter's birthday. He called me up. He said, I need to come in and talk to you. He walks in, go back to my back room, shut the door. I go, Jose, what's going on? He's like, I need out. Like, excellent, I've been praying for this day. I said, what happened? He said, I just came from my cousin's funeral in Humboldt Park. He said, he was a Latin king too, different gang. He said, I don't want my mom to go through what my aunt just went through. And it broke my heart that that's what it took for this young man to leave that life. But he left that life. He moved, he's in Texas now. We got him an internship, he's doing working with the electrical union down in Texas. He's working, he's getting jobs because he needed it. God's here for all of us, we can all change, whether it's big or small. I look at my transformation and I think it's miraculous thing in my life. It's the most miraculous thing that's ever happened in my life. But then I sit and I listen to the stories of others and I'm like, wow, man, like, God is clearly showing off today because that story is way bigger than my stuff. So I love that I get to do this work. It's a blessing to be called. One of the other things I want to share is a lot of people, and I said this in the past too, so I'm saying this as much about me as anybody. My first pastor asked me to help with the youth group. I was like, Pastor, I don't know what I could offer those kids. Like, I'm just trying to get right with God, right? God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. All you have to do is ask him what he wants you to do, listen, and say yes. That work will be blessed in ways that you can never imagine. So I just want to thank you guys so much for having me back. I love coming back and visiting and sharing things. It's always a blessing. I just want to thank Pastor Dennis and Ms. Renee for having me back. God bless you guys.